Firstly, a pursuer of a greater future through education and research that could dignify our religion. In conjunction with this Darul Ehsan public lecture entitled Propelling Selangor's Transformation into a Regional Smart State, Some Strategic Formulations, we beseech your rahmah, your blessing in making this event to be inherent, effortlessly and into the cause. Lend us your wisdom so that we may proceed our duty as human, that sincerely fulfill our duty and responsibility that you had entrusted on us. Allahumma ya Rahman, nahnu numasiku bil yadi niyabati ankum linubarak al-hafl fi hadha as-sabah al-majid. في الواقع نحن ممتنون لجهودكم التي منحت لنا الصحة والرفاهية وخير الجسم وصحة أجسادنا لمتابعة علمك، مما يجعلنا عبيدك خاضعة وطاعة لقيادة الخاص بك، ونأمل أن نتمكن من متابعة المعرفة حتى يتسنى لنا أن يكون عبيدك حقا كما ممتنا. اللهم يا الله أعطنا بلدا مزدهرا ونجاحا لأرضنا، تعطينا قوة المعرفة واستقرار التنمية حتى نتمكن من تنفيذ المهام والثقة التي أعطيتموها. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما، ولا تجعل اللهم فينا ولا معنا ولا من يتبعنا شقيا ولا مطرودا ولا محروما. اللهم اجعل خير أعمالنا آخره وخير أعمالنا خواتمه وخير أيامنا يوم ألقاك فيه. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان، ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Majlis menjemput Naib Presiden dan Timbalan Naib Chancellor Akademik Penyelidikan dan Jaringan Industri Universiti Selangor merangkap pengerusi program Syarahan Umum Darul Ehsan, Profesor Dr. Mokhtar bin Abdullah bagi menyampaikan ucapan alu-aluan.
Welcome speech by the Vice President and Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic Research and Industrial Engagement of Universiti Selangor, come Chairman of the Darul Ehsan Public Lecture, Professor Dr. Mokhtar bin Abdullah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang amat berhormat Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin bin Ali, Datuk Menteri Besar Selangor, merangkap pengurusi ahli lembaga pengarah PIYSB, yang berbahagia Datuk Nordin bin Sulaiman, Pegawai Kewangan Negeri, yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ridwan Osman, Presiden dan Naib Chancellor Universiti Selangor, UNISEL, yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Syahrudin bin Badarudin, Naib Presiden dan Timbalan Naib Chancellor, Bahagian Pembangunan Pelajar dan Jaringan Komuniti, yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Nur bin Nawawi, Naib Presiden dan Timbalan Naib Chancellor, Pentadbiran Perancangan dan Jaringan Global, yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Abdullah, Dekan Selangor Business School, merangkap pembicara Syarahan Umum Darul Ehsan, pegawai kanan Kerajaan Negeri yang berhormat, pengurusan kanan UNISEL, datuk-datuk, datin-datin, tuan-tuan dan perempuan yang dikasihi sekalian. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan selamat pagi. Alhamdulillah, setinggi-tinggi kesyukuran kehadrat Allah Subhanahu wa taala kerana dengan limpah rahmat dan izinnya kita semua dapat bersama-sama berkumpul di dalam Majlis Syarahan Umum Darul Ehsan, anjuran Universiti Selangor, UNISEL. Pertama sekali, saya ingin mengalukan kehadiran seluruh hadirin ke Majlis Syarahan Umum Darul Ehsan yang julung-julung kali diadakan. Hadirin yang dikasihi sekalian, Syarahan umum pada hari ini akan disampaikan oleh Dekan Selangor Business School, Prof. Dr. Muhammad Faiz Abdullah, yang bertajuk Propelling Selangor's Transformation into a Regional Smart State, Some Strategy Formulations. Syarahan umum ini merupakan salah satu usaha Unisel dalam membina image baru ke arah kecemerlangan. Meskipun Unisel merupakan sebuah universiti swasta, namun pendekatan kesarjanaan seperti mana yang diamalkan di universiti awam yang lain turut diberikan penekanan bagi memastikan Unisel standing dengan universiti terkemuka yang lain. Pendekatan kesarjanaan ke arah kecemerlangan ini adalah selaras dengan hasrat kerajaan negeri yang mahukan Unisel memainkan peranan dalam memberikan tumpuan yang lebih dalam usaha mewujudkan budaya ilmu bagi mencapai kecemerlangan dan bukan sekadar meraih keuntungan semata-mata. Bagi membuktikan Unisel serius ke arah kecemerlangan, Unisel telah menubuhkan pusat kecemerlangan atau Center of Excellence yang terdiri pada 7 buah institut, yaitu Institut Bio-IT, Institut Kajian Malaysia Indonesia, Institut Kejuruteraan Sukan, Institut Maqasid Syariah, Institut Epistemologi Ilmu Islam dan Pembaharuan Kurikulum, Institut Kajian Pilihan Raya dan Pemajuan Demokrasi, dan Institut Halal Antarabangsa Unisel. Dan pada bulan Jun yang lepas, Unisel telah menganjurkan syarahan profesor yang telah disampaikan oleh yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Nur Inayah Yaakob, Dekan Fakulti Perniagaan dan Perkawinan berkaitan dengan maqasid syariah dalam kepelbagaian etnik, kepentingan gabungan ilmu, dan kebijaksanaan. Akhir kata, diharapkan syarahan ini akan disampaikan oleh Profesor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Abdullah sebentar nanti akan memberikan perspektif yang baru dan memberikan impak yang diingini kepada negeri Selangor khususnya dan Malaysia amnya. Sekian, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Majlis mengucapkan terima kasih kepada yang berbahagia Prof di atas ucapan alu-aluan yang telah diberikan.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Prof, for the welcoming speech.
Majlis menjemput Presiden dan Naib Chancellor Universiti Selangor yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Rizwan bin Uthman untuk memperkenalkan penyampai syarahan umum Darul Ehsan, Profesor Dr. Muhammad Faiz bin Abdullah.
The introduction of today's speaker by the President and Vice Chancellor of Universiti Selangor, Yang Berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Rizwan bin Uthman.
Profesor Dr. Muhammad Faiz bin Abdullah. Dr. Muhammad Faiz bin Abdullah graduated with first class honors in LLB 30 years ago and was recipient of the Royal Gold Medallion of the International Islamic University. His first degree was in English literature from Universiti Malaya with major interest in philosophy, Shakespeare and T.S. Eliot, and elective in French, Arabic, and Sanskrit. Throughout his 4 years at the International Islamic University, Dr. Faiz consistently topped the Dean's list and was instrumental in leading the university in international events. Though he was the first IIU graduate to be offered a place at Harvard Law School to do a master's degree, Dr. Faiz declined it and opted for practice instead. He was called to the bar in 1990, beginning his legal career at Zain & Co. Dr. Faiz has had more than 25 years in legal practice, specializing in mergers and acquisition, corporate finance, and advisory, forensic due diligence, and public interest litigation. While practicing actively in corporate law. Faiz earned his MBA in business law and corporate finance, and later his PhD. In the academic field, he taught final year law students at the law faculty UKM from 2009 until 2016. Dr. Faiz is also an experienced trainer in soft and hard skills, having served as chief facilitator from 2008 to 2015 for the Khazanah Graduate Employability Program, GEMS. Dr. Faiz has been a speechwriter for former Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, and was advisor and researcher for Datuk Seri Anwar's Asian Renaissance Project. Since January 2015, Dr. Faiz has been advisor on international policy and affairs to the Menteri Besar. This position entails advice on the formulation of international policy matters, including the conceptualization of a regional presence for Selangor. Dr. Faiz is also chairman of the editorial advisory board of Selangor Media and advisor to the Smart Selangor Delivery Unit. Dr. Faiz is the author of 4 books in addition to the monograph which bears the title of this lecture. The first book, entitled The Province of Sharia Determined, Fundamental Readings of Sharia in the Tour de Force, in the Discourse of Sharia and in Inherent Dynamism. His second book, entitled Wars of Jurisprudence, Clash Between Contractual Justice and Freedom of Contracts, again breaks new ground by transferring the rules of laws into context of justice. His third book, Voyage to Excellence, Strategic Management for the 21st Century, is indeed as a primer for the Selangor Business School MBA core subject, Strategic Management. Dr. Faiz's Facebook, entitled Islamic States Between the Idea and Reality, is due for publication in June 2018. In this book, Dr. Faiz tackled headlong the issues of the so-called Islamic states and take a critical view of the excessive polemics dominating the discourse. In February this year, Dr. Faiz was appointed as Professor and Dean of Selangor Business School, SBS. Finally, on a personal note, Dr. Faiz is a self-taught musician and singer, and apart from English and Malay, he is fluent in French and German. He was intermediate competent in Arabic, Latin, and Sanskrit. So, Dr. Faiz, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Majlis mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Yang Berbahagia Presiden dan Naib Chancellor.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Presiden.
Majlis menjemput Yang Berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Bin Abdullah untuk menyampaikan syarahan umum Darul Ehsan yang bertajuk Propelling Selangor's Transformation into a Regional Smart State, Some Strategic Formulations.
We would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Bin Abdullah to deliver the lecture titled Propelling Selangor's Transformation into a Regional Smart State, Some Strategic Formulations.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang amat berhormat Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin bin Ali, Datuk Menteri Besar Selangor. Yang berhormat Datuk Haji Nik Suhaimi bin Nik Sulaiman, I'm afraid he's not here. That was in the script, sorry. Yang berhormat Datuk Nordin bin Sulaiman, Pegawai Kewangan Negeri Selangor. Yang berbahagia Datuk Nur Azmi bin Diron, merangkap pengarah UPEN dan juga Timbalan Pengarah Setiausaha Negeri Selangor. Yang berbahagia Profesor Datuk Dr. Muhammad Ridwan Othman, President dan Naib Chancellor UNISEL. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Mokhtar bin Abdullah, Naib Presiden, Timbalan Naib Chancellor. Yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Muhammad Nur bin Nawawi, Naib Presiden, Timbalan Naib Chancellor, dan yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Shahrudin bin Badarudin, Naib Presiden dan Timbalan Naib Chancellor. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I bid you Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. When the title of this lecture was proposed to my colleagues, some told me that the title sounded a bit bombastic. So that reminded me of a story of the three professors and how bombastic they really are. And one is from UIA, International Islamic University. He's a professor of religion. Another is from Universiti Malaya, professor of law. And the third one is from a professor from UNICEL, a professor of unified knowledge. He's a professor who knows everything. And they were traveling in a time machine, and for some reason, they were caught smack in the middle of the French Revolution. And this is not the revolution where they freed people. This is the revolution where it was called the Reign of Terror. The Reign of Terror, we know what they do. They chop people's head off. So, the first one to go under the bulletin was the professor from UIA, professor of religion. And Monsieur Robespierre asked him, "What is your dying wish, my friend, Mr. Professor?" And he looked upon the whole thing and said, "I have been teaching religion all this while. I've been talking to God all over the place. I'm sure God will help me." "Is that all your wish?" "Okay, executioner, release the blade." The blade went down, right just before the back of his neck, it stopped. Oh my God, the mob gasped in excitement. He was actually saved by God. And everybody applauded, and they were very happy, and they declared a public holiday the next day. The next one to go there was the professor from Universiti Malaya, the professor of law. So he went in again, put his head on the chopping board, and again, Monsieur Robespierre asked him, "Monsieur Professor, what is your last dying wish?" He looked around and said, "All these years I've been pleading for justice, for mercy. I am sure the spirit of mercy and justice will help me." "Is that all your wish?" Then the blade went down. Again, right at the back of it, just 1 centimeter, it stopped. The crowd went into ecstasy. 15 fireballs were flat, and then the whole month was declared to be a holiday. And now it was time for the professor from UNICEL. So professor from UNICEL put his head there, and Robespierre, "My friend, you're the last one. Monsieur, what is your dying wish?" The professor from UNICEL looked around and said, "Well, this guy is from the religious part. Yeah, we know what he does, but we don't really know how God works, so I don't believe how that happens. And the guy from the law side, we don't see how justice works that way. We don't really know things. We don't know things at all," he told this guy. "And I tell you, the only thing I do know is when you look up that thing, the pulley and the rope are not stuck together there." In other words, the rope is still stuck to the pulley. That's why the blade didn't come down. If you release the pulley, the blade will come down. That's what he told them. Big mistake, isn't it? So they released the blade, and down the blade went down, and off his head went off. And what is the moral of my story today? You may be very smart, but the smart people must know when to keep their mouth shut. So, today's title is about smart state. I put this in that context to know that when we talk about smart, it's not just about talking. So I've structured my lecture in such a way that I'll keep the talking to the minimum of 1 hour. Inshallah, when we finish within time, I will be able to distribute this book, which is bearing the same title. When I was tasked to do this lecture, and me being the type who likes to talk a lot, I decided not to talk so much and decided to put this into writing. So I will only be talking for 1 hour, but this book will be distributed to all of you after the lecture. In In the historic Battle of Zila, fought between Julius Caesar and Pharnaces II in 47 BC, Caesar routed the armies of Pharnaces in a campaign that was fast, furious, and final. Today, after assuming the office of Menteri Besar for 3 years now, well, a couple of days here and there, Datuk Sri Azmin Ali may well say, I came, I saw, I transformed. Of course, he did not actually say that, yeah? After 4 months into office on 27 January 2015, were words no less profound. Could we go to the slide? Yes, one more please. Yeah. This is what he said, and let me just quote from there. What we need is nothing short of a paradigm shift in our approach, outlook, and strategies, with the emphasis on qualitative enhancement in all aspects. With these words, the Menteri Besar sounded the clarion call for transformation. This transformational change, he threw the challenge to translate this aspiration into reality. In today's lecture, I shall attempt to shed light on this challenge, examine how it has been taken up, and make some suggestions as to how we may further propel and manage the dynamic process. My lecture is divided into 3 parts. As you can see, first I examine the theoretical foundations of paradigm change and touch on the debate between Thomas Kuhn and Karl Popper on the doctrine of falsifiability. I then give my position from the prison of Islam, as argued in my articles and in my writings in my books. What forces are there to resist transformational change? And how can they be overcome? What approaches do we have in managing change? What would be the most suitable for Selangor? How does the question of leadership feature in this process? In part 2, I compare theory against reality. I compare the concept against the action. I compare the words against deeds. We will look at the case studies to support the view that propelling change for Selangor is neither empty rhetoric nor polemics, but supported by facts, by figures, and by tangible results. In part 3, concluding the lecture, I shall make use and make the call for continued support for change and offer some strategic formulations to further drive the process and propel the transformation trajectory. Inshallah, I'll be able to complete it within this 60 minutes offered to me. Next slide, please. In October 2015, the Menteri Besar told the State Assembly that Selangor was for transformational change. And I quote, "We need to make a quantum leap towards becoming a smart state, which characterizes a developed state, where information technology is harnessed optimally to enhance the quality of life of the society. To realize this, the state of Selangor must be ready to make that paradigm shift, to promote a knowledge economy with smart infrastructure, develop smart people, and establish a smart government." Unquote. Next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, go back to the earlier one. Yes. Was this just mere rhetoric? Was this just a case of grandstanding to generate sound bites? Was the Menteri Besar just playing to the gallery and making bare assertions? Certainly not. On the contrary, this was a statement of aspiration. A statement of aspiration based on solid facts with courage of conviction. Selangor is the nation's economic powerhouse and has been consistently contributing the lion's share of the GDP, the national GDP. Selangor is the turbocharged engine of Malaysia's economic growth, creating jobs, commercial and business opportunities, industrial growth, and enhancing household incomes. In Selangor, the nation gets sustainable, substantial, and solid value creation. And with Selangor, Malaysia becomes wholesome. Now, let us look at the numbers. Last year, Selangor contributed 22.7%. I've just rounded up the figures. This is the latest, in fact. We got it just last week. It contributed 22.7% to the nation's GDP, making it the largest single contributor to the economy. The closest competitor, Kuala Lumpur, was 7.4% behind Selangor, with 15.3%. Sarawak has taken the third position with 9.8%. Next slide, please. In the services sector, which is very crucial as we face the fourth industrial revolution, even overtaking manufacturing. Now, in the services sector, Selangor continued to lead with 25.2%, followed by Kuala Lumpur with 24.8%. Now, this is a combined contribution of half of the entire services sector. As we shall see later, this with 28.9%, followed by Pulau Pinang with 12.9%, and Johor with 12.6%. Now let us pause and look at a key question that underpins the topic of my lecture. What is a regional smart state? People have been using this term, smart states, smart cities, but we have to sometimes just take a few steps back and look and see what we're really talking about. I have discussed this at great length in my book, which bears the title of this, but so I will not go into too detail for now. Suffice it to say that many aspects are involved when talking about a regional smart state. Now, for one, as the earlier quote tells you, I'm quoting from just now what the Menteri Bahasa said, which is optimal harnessing of IT for qualitative, a smart society that promotes innovation and creativeness. The emphasis is on people-centric development. That's the emphasis. We can be smart. We can be as smart as we claim to be, but if it only benefits a few, then it doesn't qualify as a smart state. As for the word regional, the smart state must be a magnet to draw in regional, maybe even global investment, making it a trading and commercial hub. It will be the premier business, travel, and living destination in the region. Now the challenge is regional, global competition, as expressed in the words of the author. I now just use the word author Muhammad Azmin Ali in his book. That's how we normally refer to authors. Membangun bangsa, catatan permulaan tentang etika urus tadbir dan kenegaraan. Slide please. Sebagai negeri termaju di Malaysia, I'm quoting, tidak lagi mencabar untuk sekadar bersaing dengan negeri-negeri lain. Mulai daripada sekarang, Selangor perlu tampil sebagai negeri global atau sekurang-kurangnya sebagai negeri serantau, a regional state. ASEAN Economic Community menuntut negeri Selangor untuk menyahut cabaran global supaya hubungan perdagangan dapat menjana pertumbuhan dan memakmurkan masyarakat ASEAN termasuk Selangor. Unquote. A smart state must also mean a government that is fully accountable. I would use the word fully accountable, not only partially. Not only accountable when in front of the television set. Transparent and caring. Not accountable because of ceremony. Accountable indeed. There has to be a rule of law, not a rule by law, and certainly not rule by man. It is not a state that is moralistic and judgmental, but it is a state that inculcates moral values, ethical standards, fostering generosity of spirit, caring for fellow human beings, a compassionate state. Compassionate, very important. Compassionate must always be thought of when we talk about Islamic state, we cannot be confined to the concept of a fiqh-oriented state. It's a compassionate state. That is a very, very crucial element. It is a government driven by a philosophy of promoting stronger inclusion, actively involving and engaging citizens under a policy of moderation and justice. All said, a smart state should fulfill the key aspects of the Universal Sustainable Development Goals. I pause to lodge a few caveats so that we take stock of the things that matter. Economic transformation with impressive GDP numbers alone, while failing to address major inequities, wealth inequities, cannot be regarded as true transformational change. Where islands of poverty exist in the sea of wealth, the demands of social justice cry out for redistribution in accordance with the principles of justice. According to Amartya Sen, a state of poverty is typified by at least one unfreedom. At least one. It ranges from lack of political rights to deprivation of economic choices. Viewed in light of justice, freedom, and responsibility, the idea of human capital, quote unquote, is flawed by the failure to factor in the importance of societal well-being and freedom and their implications on social change. As for distributive justice, Rawlsian justice, as fairness, offers good grounds for state intervention in a variety of ways, like house-owning democracy, healthcare, and the democratization of educational opportunities. You will see later how this fits in nicely within the paradigm of Selangor's transformation and the Selangor State's social justice policy. That was the theory. You will see the actual practice later. You can call it walking the talk or putting your money where your mouth is. But in all these aspects, like I said earlier, the Selangor government has successfully translated theory into reality, concept into action, words into deeds. We can see it in the social microfinancing, for example, the initiative known as Hijrah. In the medium to low cost housing schemes and programs. We see it in the Peduli Sehat scheme and the Peduli Siswa and scholarship schemes, among others. These are all subsumed under the generic title of the holistic program known as Initiative Peduli Rakyat. But before we move on to the next segment, I just want to add just a pause to the idea of distributive justice, that it is not exclusively Western, nor is it a new conception. The Islamic concept of social justice enjoins the state to provide social protection to the ummah, priority being given to the poor and the marginalized, the underprivileged, and the unemployed. The concept of distributive justice means that surplus wealth of the rich ought to be channeled, within limits, of course, towards these ends. This is the concept of al-adalah al-ijtama'iyah, a broad concept of social justice, not as an ideology of state, but as a guiding philosophy in Islamic political economy. I now move on to the discourse on paradigm change. As time is not on our side, I will cut to the chase. Next. In the structure of scientific revolutions, Thomas Kuhn asserts that scientific progress did not move by way of gradual accumulation on a regular pattern, but by episodic waves, where continuity was punctured by phases of revolutionary occurrence. The upshot, the birth of new paradigms, which become game changers, which in turn drive new scientific research. Karl Popper, on the other side, argued against the classical inductivist viewpoint and advanced the doctrine of falsifiability to demolish empirical verification. In his influential work, The Logic of Scientific Discovery, Logik der Forschung zur Erkenntnistheorie der modernen Naturwissenschaft. That's a bit of a mouthful, obviously, yes. Yes. If there are any German-speaking people around, yes. Popper said that the correct scientific methodology must be based on falsifiability. Now, to cut a long story short, next. Kuhn contended that Popper's falsifiability system is not only unrealistic, but impossible to be resolved, because no theory ever solves all the puzzles with which it is confronted at a given time. This should be the interest of all professors, regardless of whether you're in the industrial sciences, the physical sciences, or the social sciences. If every failure to fit were ground for theory rejection, then all theories would have to be rejected at all times, including Karl Popper's own theory. So for lack of space, I will not go further, but just to add the perspective, my humble view from the prism of Islam. Now, in the discourse, the general Western position and the essentially Orientalist position is that Islamic civilization abandoned science because of Al-Ghazali's Tahafut al-Falasifa, generally translated as the incoherence of the philosophers. And because of this writing, all of a sudden, Islam descended from science and went into darkness. Now, I have challenged this view in both my books. The Province of Sharia Determined, in my second book, The Wars of Jurisprudence, and also in this book, which I will be distributing, I've challenged this view. And that's not only my challenge. Some of those who are more inclined to think that way has also joined in the fray. Now, it is said that the attack by Imam al-Ghazali, because of this attack, Islamic civilization descended into darkness. This contention is false and unsubstantiated. Firstly, there was no such descent into darkness from science. Historically, we know that the golden age of Islam was one of the remarkable phenomena of human civilization. This age was signified by great advances in scientific, cultural, and religious matters. Secondly, the fact is that for at least another 2 centuries after the publication of Al-Ghazali's Tahafut al-Falasifa, the golden age of Islam continued to see scientific progress. So where is the basis for blaming Al-Ghazali? And what is my point here? My point is that Islam's approach to knowledge is founded on the principle of unity between reason and revelation. I repeat, principle of unity between reason and revelation, and not reason against revelation. In other words, we need to use our intellect in our approach to knowledge. It is not about aqliyah versus naqliyah, but aqliyah within the paradigm of hikmah, conferred through revelation. And now let us look briefly at the paradigm shifts as shown by history. We'll go quickly through that. Next slide, please. Paradigm shifts have indeed occurred over the ages. Let us take a bird's eye view. We had the first industrial revolution, then the second, then the third, and now creeping in is what is being called as the fourth industrial revolution, also known as Industry 4.0. This revolution is defined by a fusion of technologies. Next slide. Okay? Go back to the next slide, please, sorry. Yes. I just want to give a quick quote. Yeah? To define the fourth industrial revolution, this is the best quote. There is the unprecedented impact in velocity, scope, and systems, as we sum up by Klaus Schwab, the founder and chairman of the World Economic Forum. And let me just quote him. Aside from speed and breadth, the fourth industrial revolution is unique because of the harmonization and integration of so many disciplines and discoveries. Digital fabrication, technologies can interact with the biological world. Well, in light of this, what strategic responses we have to ask ourselves? Are we able to give to the disruption that will be caused, to the manufacturing, to the services sectors? How do we face the challenges that will be brought on the human resource ecosystem or the organizational culture of our work institutions? The new paradigm of management in the 21st century will involve a greater degree of critical systems thinking. Critical systems thinking. Chaos and complexity theory, system dynamics, interactive planning, management cybernetics, the fifth discipline. These are not academic issues, but matters that affect us directly, for paradigm change does not occur in a vacuum. It brings about a societal paradigm change, and we are seeing it now here. It is a transformational change. Whether it is incremental or Big Bang, we will deal with it later, but it is a paradigm change. And it involves society at large, not just in the textbooks. So advances in atomic energy, space engineering, computer technology, all these are bringing and will continue to bring societal shifts, ushering in the new era. In a knowledge economy, we always hear about the knowledge economy. The quantum leaps made in the digital world dictate that time is of the essence. When things are moving, and if you do not move, it means we are going back. So the state must not only respond timelessly, but creatively and innovatively. Shape up or ship out, stay ahead of the pack, or be overtaken. This takes me to the question of leadership. Okay, quickly, paradigm change can be, it's transformational change, it may be incremental, or it may be a big bang. It entails transition from one archetype to another, tied in the three-stage process. The next slide, please. In stage one, what we see is that the organization, think of organization as an entity, or you can think of the organization as a state. Yeah? The organization conditions the outcome of the process by reconfiguring the rules underpinning its deep structure. In stage two, it moves from its current equilibrium, and in stage three, management's attention is focused on the feedback loops. On the question of strategic leadership, there are two basic paradigms. Next slide, please. Yes. The industrial leadership paradigm. Now, under this model, leadership is not just good management, but also concerns good personalities, great personalities with preferred traits, influencing followers. This paradigm takes a structural, functionalist view of organizations, personalistic in focus, individualistic in outlook, and materialistic in ethical perspective. Second one is the leadership paradigm of the 21st century. This paradigm will feature diversity with pluralism, civic virtues, freedom of expression, critical dialogue, and substantive justice, and consensus-oriented policy-making process. You know where I'll be heading here now. Yeah. So flowing from this, we have the transformational leader. For paradigm change, the transformational leader will set the vision. We can just move to the next one. Next slide, please. I would just want to go back, please. Go back, please. Sorry. This is a bit of technical stuff. I just want to take a brief tour to talk about, apart from the theory, I'll make some general statements here. I think transformational leadership, we can give you some examples here. So on the global stage, we have Abraham Lincoln, we have Winston Churchill, we have F.D. Roosevelt, Mahatma Gandhi, Sun Yat-sen, Nelson Mandela, and so on, and even across the causeway, you have Lee Kuan Yew, yeah, transformational major changes for the region. On the home front, we have Tun, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. He leads the transformational pantheon. Mahathir's vision, 2020, no doubt represented strategic foresight, an audacious plan to provide state-of-the-art infrastructure to propel Malaysia into a developed nation. Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim, the icon of modernity and moderation in Islam, a prime mover of the Asian Renaissance. He is in that category as well, especially for his work in reform and renewal, Islah and Tajdeed. Now, closer to home, here we have in Selangor, Dato Sri Azmin Ali. He fits in snugly as a transformational leader. At this point in time, yeah, some may say that the sphere of transformation is confined to Selangor. But in my humble view, that is a myopic, short-sighted position. Once we consider the impact of the state as the economic powerhouse of the nation and its trajectory in the region, Dato Sri Azmin Ali's sphere of influence extends well beyond state boundaries. In any event, this is certainly so in the realm of politics and affairs of national consequence, where he has demonstrated three essential attributes of transformational leadership. Number one, strategic visionary thinking. Number two, oratorical skills. And number three, statesmanship, which is actually the most important. But that is a subject beyond the scope of this lecture, so I shall move on to the next. Yeah. I've come to part two. I'm trying to keep to the time, because timing discipline is very important. I begin with the State Economic Planning Unit, or UPEN, under the stewardship of Dato Nur Azmi Diron. First, with the Menteri Besar's clarion call for paradigm change, UPEN has shifted gear, has moved up by reformulating its primary function from mere planning, quote unquote, to strategic planning. It may sound very simple and basic, but for those of us who follow strategic planning, and in my case I teach strategic management as well, that's a big shift. It's like a quantum leap. Yeah? Mere planning and strategic planning. You can write an entire book just on that. I don't propose to do that here, but what's in a name, they say, yeah, that which is a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. But here we're not talking about Juliet, talking about Romeo here. Here we're talking about the significance that we have. The change in name has a significant effect, for it imports the principle of long-term strategic thinking, and that is very important. Now this is reflected in its Pelan Hala 7, RM ke-11 Negeri Selangor, or the 11th Strategic Malaysia Plan of Selangor State. Secondly, the state EPU cannot be regarded as just, people say, oh, bureaucracy. I beg to differ, it is not. So the EPU, the state EPU, the UPenn cannot be regarded as just another brick in the huge state bureaucracy. It certainly is not. On the contrary, UPenn should be treated as a central strategic corporate unit. Its strategic plan must be aligned with the vision and mission set by the Menteri Besar in moving the state forward. So it must move together, aligned, in tandem, in harmony. Thirdly, UPenn's proactive agenda at the implementation level has ensured that targets under the state budget are achieved. Let's have some numbers here, please. So for the first year of the 11th SMP, these figures were as at the end of July or end of August, the latest, because when we went to print earlier, this was part of it. But this is still quite recent. Yeah? So for the first year of the 11th SMP, 95% of the approved budget of 1.44 billion was utilized. If you go back to the earlier speeches by Menteri Besar at the State Assembly, how important it is to have this discipline. You have accountability, which is ante, and then you have accountability with ex post. After having that, you must measure against. We have given you 100 million, what have you done with it? So this is basically what it's all about. It is called budget utilization success. Next slide, please. So plotting a 5-year curve from 2011 to 2016, we can see that after there's a sharp drop in 2013, the curve shows a healthy incremental progression in budget use and finally culminating in the excellent performance for 2016. It will be recalled, in presenting the 2016 budget, the Menteri Besar stressed the priority will be given to drive dynamic and organic growth and development. I stress the word and development here. Because the move towards a regional smart state will be impossible to realize without ensuring that the state itself undergoes development. Such development being an aspect and will remain to be top of the agenda. So in this regard, revenue collection is crucial in order to provide a constant and consistent income stream to finance the development and people-centric projects. Next slide, please. A quick look at the table on revenue collection from 2011 to 2016 shows that revenue collected for the period registered incremental growth with a slight decrease in 2016. While the numbers for this year are not finalized, it is forecasted to register an increase. It may be marginal, but it's forecasted to, so it may be a slight drop, but that's not the issue here. Consistency is very important. Next, let me come to the critical review. Next slide, please. All right. First, UPenn's switch from mere planning to strategic planning is a correct move following the 3-stage process. Next slide. Secondly, or contrary to the prescriptions of Hayek or the Austrian School of Economics, a robust and sustainable growth is not a function of the spontaneous order of markets, or he calls it the extended order. Whatever name you call it, it has to be planned. The invisible hand of Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that, the so-called creation of self-regulating markets doesn't apply. It doesn't apply here. The achievement of targets is a result of planning, follow-through, implementation, rechecking. It is also because of the principle of ex post accountability, where the Menteri Besar himself has said in the State Assembly, he will be held to account for the implementation of the budget in a responsible and effective way to ensure that the objectives in the budget are met. Now, going forward, I've got some formulations here. UPenn must maintain its momentum to help the transformation process. In certain areas, it may even have to pick up the tempo. Number two, UPenn should take steps to enhance its human resource capacity to keep pace with a rapidly changing knowledge economy. Number three, greater engagement is required with its publics and stakeholders. And here I must add, UPenn has reached out from my observation, but those that are at stake or those who are the publics must also come forward to interact. This has to be what we call a two-way street. UPenn must brace itself for the challenges with the onset of the fourth industrial revolution. I now come to the second case study, which is changing core rigidities and reinventing PKNS. Let's see how the transformation fits in with the required remedy. The subject here is Perbadanan Kemajuan Negeri Selangor, and very well known as PKNS, the state economic arm that has been in existence for more than half a century. Therefore, some historical perspective is needed here. First and foremost, PKNS was the brainchild of the 8th Menteri Besar of Selangor, Allahyarham Dato Sri Harun bin Haji Idris. I like this black and white. It's really, razzmatazz. It brings in a lot of sentimental feelings. Now, ensconced in this brand new auditorium, I believe this is the first one we're having the first public lecture. Am I right, Pan? Yeah. Ensconced in this beautiful auditorium that bears his name. Therefore, it's only fitting and proper that we pay tribute just a little bit to his enormous contributions to the state of Selangor. Now, the late Dato Sri Harun Idris established PKNS to ensure a fair distribution of socio-economic growth to generate harmony and social justice in Selangor. Now, he was among the first of the leaders to carry out social re-engineering. I think even before the word was actively used. I don't know whether it was coined then at that time. His aim was to create effective participation of the Malays in equity ownership, in management, in industry and commerce. In the process, he became the main driver to urbanize Malays. Now, the record shows that PKNS successfully resettled low-income Malay families from squatter houses in impoverished living conditions to decent homes with modern facilities. That's a big achievement. Now, however, in terms of strategic thrust for value creation, PKNS had to confront the underlying problem of business model, which was affected by core rigidities. It was a simple model. I'm just going a bit historical here. Get huge tracts of land, pay the premium as and when it is developed, found out some portions to private developers via JV or privatization. But this model secured a steady income, a steady stream, which is important. Minimal risk. But how about organic growth? This had to change. To cut a long story short, we fast forward to the present. This shows the achievements to date in terms of the core business of PKNS. With the strategy initiated by the Menteri Besar, PKNS ventured into development of new growth centers such as industrial centers, business and various investment centers and activities, and it also branched into construction, waste management, infrastructure, development, and hospitality. To shake off the branding image as a builder of low-cost housing schemes, PKNS launched a concerted strategy to rebrand itself and go into proper image building. Here, we have PKNS new iconic, award-winning head office building. I must congratulate PKNS for winning the very, very prestigious awards in this regard. Yeah, this is a recognition of excellence. Somebody says, what's the big deal? The big deal is that it's excellence. Yeah? It underscores, and even more important, it underscores the general philosophy of building designs, a combination of aesthetic beauty, functionality, and sustainability. These are primary values of a smart state. Primary values of a smart state. The approach must be reduction of environmental impact while building new structures. conservation, efficiency in energy use, recycling, renewable resources. Now look at the strategic plan on housing development projects for PKNS. We see a 40, 46, 16% spread in terms of low cost, affordable, medium cost, and high cost, respectively, in its project mix. With regard to the depletion of its strategic land bank, PKNS has embarked on transforming brownfield areas into integrated mixed developments to produce high-yield projects. That is very commendable. It has revitalized old flats to produce the profit required to subsidize, to cross-subsidize, to be exact, the less strategic developments and offer affordable homes. Thus, it not only fulfills the CSR, the corporate social responsibility roles, but strategically syncs with the transformational initiatives via the urban regeneration project. Now, going forward, under its first ever female CEO, who unfortunately is not here today, I believe she's on holiday, Puan Hajah Noraida binti Haji Muhammad Yusof, PKNS must see through the full execution of its 2015-2019 strategic plan with its 8 core areas. Now, I close the PKNS study with the following strategic formulations. Number 1, PKNS should consider doing a full financial re-engineering plan. It's just a plan to rationalize underperforming entities while unlocking greater value in promising ones. Number 2, it should look into producing a strong blueprint for human resource development to face the 4th industrial revolution. And it must go beyond the standard conventional HR formulations. Number 3, while providing excellent working environment through virtuous working process, which is very important, PKNS must also brace itself for the disruptive effects that I was talking about. And finally, a succession strategy should be crafted to ensure uninterrupted delivery of Selangor's smart state objectives. And with that, I come to the next case study, which is the reconstruction strategy of Unicel's turnaround. Under the process as spearheaded by the new Vice Chancellor and President, Professor Dr. Muhammad Ridwan Osman. Next, please. Yes. The change strategy is essentially to deal with the turnaround situation with major structural changes. First, let me clarify 2 basic terms. 2 basic terms need to be clarified. We use it very often, but sometimes even I myself get mixed up. Now, in the language of organizational and strategic management, transformation proceeds from a position of strength. Position of strength, then you transform. But when you're in a position of weakness, as in not strong enough, you need to turn around first before you can transform. And this is the right approach that was taken by Unicel. So in such a scenario, the strategic thrust is threefold. Speed of change, you cannot take your sweet time. Rapid cost reduction, and revenue generation as and when possible. Next slide, please. As for the transformation, there was a consolidation strategy by collapsing the faculties into 4. 1, 3, 2, 4, doesn't matter, the basic idea, that was it as at that time. Termination of professors. I mean, we're still here, not all of us have been terminated. Yeah. Yeah. Non-productive staff, all in all, 18% of the payroll. That's a huge chunk, almost 20%, it's like 1/5. In corporate strategy language, we call this trimming excess fat and making it lean. So a major cost-cutting exercise was done to cushion the decline in financial performance. It must be stressed, I have to stress here, that the financial situation is a result of, shall we put it this way, legacy issues, historical legacy issues. There was a strategy to squeeze out suppliers. I love this term. In strategic management, we always say that things are not doing well, it's nothing to do with cash flow. You go to the suppliers and you squeeze them. You squeeze out suppliers to cut costs, reduce redundancies, lower overheads, increase productivity per unit cost. So initiatives were made to export also the Unicel brand, overseas. Yeah, and this is very commendable. As, for example, in the establishment of a branch campus in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I believe 23rd September, isn't it? We're starting classes. Next slide, please. Now, in a turnaround scenario, the general rule is that old management will be replaced, not totally, maybe partially, with the import of fresh blood. So here, obviously, the management change at the top would be featuring the new VC, the CEO, to symbolize top-level management dynamics. The HR restructuring is still an ongoing process. So, I mean, those who are not as productive as they should be might want to, think about it when they go back to bed tonight. Yes. I'm just speaking here on behalf of the VC. And maybe also I'm speaking on behalf of the Menteri Besar. Now, let me conclude the segment on Unicel with the following observations. Number one, the turnaround strategy, while involved cost-cutting, may require the business to reconceptualize. What remains absent is a full financial restructuring scheme. Well, there is no comprehensive plan to change the existing capital structure or to raise the finance apart from the receiving of annual grants or loans from the state government. We might want to think about that, all parts and all parties getting together. Nevertheless, all things considered, the turnaround strategies have been successful in the areas Unicel has embarked on. Please join me in a round of applause for this. Yes. Yes. Within a span of 18 months, thanks to a committed, focused, strategic leadership of Professor Ridwan, Unicel has surpassed expectations in effecting strategic change. And this goes together with the Menteri Besar's aspirations of transforming Selangor into a smart regional state. So in facing the fourth industrial revolution, Unicel must make a quantum leap into the Internet of Things, big data, data analytics, cloud computing, and so on. Unicel must be ready to meet the challenges that such a revolution will bring. Now, just to paraphrase and to pick up and to echo the strategic prescriptions of the Menteri Besar, Unicel must revisit its founding objectives to move its engineering-based disciplines to the forefront of innovation in the physical sciences. Our social sciences are pretty strong. We don't have to worry about that. The physical sciences will need to be reinvented and reinforced. This must be a holistic effort across the board in all faculties, centers, and units to enhance competitiveness and competencies in all the necessary aspects. With that, I move to this a little bit on the Unicel. From there, we have what we call the adjunctive top-down game changer. Now, some background on this. You're looking at the so-called person who is trying to blow his own horn here. Yeah, let's hope I don't get carried away. That's why I've got a script here. Now, in July 2016, I presented a paper proposing the establishment of a homegrown graduate business school to produce MBA, DBA, and PhD graduates. Following this, discussions were held with UPenn and Perbendaharaan, which culminated in the Menteri Besar announcing the establishment of the school in the October budget address at the Assembly. In February this year, I was appointed Professor and Dean of Selangor School, Unicel, of Selangor Business School, Unicel. I need to roll back a bit more, in fact. Why did I make the proposal in the first place? It was actually in direct response to expressions of concern by the Menteri Besar himself over the absence of a branded, quote-unquote branded, the Menteri Besar is a branded person, yeah? Because branding means excellence. I still remember this. I always carry it out to others, what the Menteri Besar tells us in the staff meetings. If you want to do something, for heaven's sake, do it properly, do it all the way. Otherwise, don't bother to do it. I think that's a very good advice. Which is why I decided, when I want to produce this, I might as well produce a real book and not just some, tiny clippings here and there. And that is what I mean by branded. Branded is not just being snobbish. It means the pursuit to excellence, the pursuit of excellence, how you want to improve qualitatively all the time. So homegrown graduate business school to produce graduates to fulfill the needs of the state, the business, and the corporate sectors. Selangor Business School aims to produce dynamic and globally oriented graduates who excel in core competencies and become value contributors and leaders at all strategic levels. The question is, how would that be a game changer? Here's my answer. Apart from producing homegrown MBA, DBA, and PhD business graduates, Selangor Business School will participate actively in the advancement of knowledge, diffusion of learning, and the gaining of competitive advantage. Can I just repeat myself here? Advancement of knowledge, diffusion of learning, and the gaining of competitive advantage. That is not in the active vocabulary of graduate students or even undergraduate students. They think to go there, get a degree, and that's it. Or go there, get an MBA, and get a job. No. It is for the advancement of knowledge, diffusion of learning, and the gaining of competitive advantage. That is the rationale. For the state's national and regional agenda, it will forge strategic alliances and partnerships, as well as engage in collaborative enterprises. Thirdly, Selangor Business School will not just support, but help to propel, not just hanging there and giving support, actively pushing, actively propelling Selangor's transformation into a regional smart state and to help drive development and talent growth. Just to, again, paraphrase the speeches made by the Menteri Besar, Selangor moves towards a knowledge economy. For it to happen, it would require, quote unquote, major and drastic reform. I repeat, this is from the speech. Major and drastic reform. So, Selangor Business School is not just going to be another institution to add to the paper chase or become yet another assembly line for the manufacture of degrees. On the contrary, with the onset of the fourth industrial revolution, Selangor Business School with UNICEL will showcase the new paradigm. It will go where others fear to tread. It will fulfill the government's expectations of its role of producing graduates to meet the needs and demands of the business, corporate, industry, and the public services sector. With that, I move on to the second final segment. Do we still have time, organizer? How much time do we have? Are you okay? Can I proceed some more? Thank you, yes. Now, the second segment will be in relation to, next please. Can go to the next segment. Yes, I now move to Invest Selangor. Now, transformational change entails changes marked by significant shifts in strategic thrust. Leading the way here is Invest Selangor in its quest to boost investments in the state. As of 2015, pursuant to the Menteri Besar's clarion call for paradigm change, greater focus and emphasis is given to high-impact and high-tech industries. Now, in my book, I have dealt with the key clusters in detail: electrical, electronics, M&E, biotech, halal industry, aerospace. Because of time constraints, I will focus more on aerospace for this lecture. Just a brief mention before that. For 2016, Selangor recorded total approved investments of 7.88 billion for the manufacturing sector alone, 7.88 billion ringgit, and making it the second only to Johor. But in terms of the number of projects, and it's important, when we look at value, we don't look at the absolute numbers. You look at the dispersion. Because you have greater number of projects, Selangor is the leader with a total of 242. Why is it important here? Because you have greater dispersion of wealth and greater dispersion and creation of jobs. You may have a huge one, but if it's monopolized by a few, that is not good. So this number is very important. The diagram, next please, shows the significant role played by this sector in terms of boosting FDI. This is just one example of the state's manufacturing output, particularly the E&E cluster. It plays a key role by contributing about 22%. And for the last 3 decades has attracted more than 35 billion ringgit in terms of investments. Value creation. We're looking at easily almost 180,000 jobs. That's value creation. Selangor also has the biosciences. Here the progress is Selangor Bio Bay, transformation drive for the ecosystem, and of course we have the halal sector and all related industries. Now, let me just go straight to the aerospace industry. All right, actually 10 minutes left here. The aerospace industry is one of the key economic areas identified to stimulate the state economy. For us, it is still emerging, but globally, aerospace is an apex industry. It drives innovation and technology in economic development. Of late, even South Korea, the South Korean and the Japanese conglomerates have actually gone into it, diversified into aerospace in an effort to further drive their own innovation and their quality in their products. So, basically, if you want to go regional, you have to go aerospace. And here, Selangor is smack right into it. Selangor is the state for the development of the new Asia Aerospace City located in Subang. To move ahead with the game, more than 62% of the nation's aerospace activities are located in Selangor. 62%. The state can therefore leverage on its incremental critical mass. Some people say, what are you bragging? This is a federal effort, or this is not totally state. That's myopic thinking. Whatever that happens in Selangor will have an impact for Selangorians and for the state. And we can leverage on a lot of things. So furthermore, global OEMs, such as Airbus, they are pushing for greater expansion of their supply chain to cater for large backlog orders. And where do they look? They look into Southeast Asia, and within Southeast Asia, they see Malaysia, and in Malaysia, they see Selangor. This is what it is. Earlier this year, the CEO of Airbus, for example, announced that he was looking forward to increasing purchasing from the Malaysian supply chain. Now, going forward, 2 MOUs were executed between Invest Selangor and MAHB, as well as between Invest Selangor and Amara Aerotech, set to give more impact towards the sector. The value creation is enormous. What are they? MROs. Aircraft conversion centers. Human capital development. Research. Technology. Slide, please. Just move on, one to the other. These are some of the things I was talking about. MROs, maintenance, repair, and overhaul. Move on to the next, please. Yes. Okay. Now, there is something to be said about the establishment of the Selangor Aerospace Council, of which this was established last year, of which Menteri Besar is the chairperson, and comprising members who are experts in the field. The council implements the state's aerospace action plan, nurturing a competitive aerospace ecosystem in Selangor, particularly in Subang, in Sepang, and Serendah. The council remains focused on the development of KLIA Aeropolis, Subang Aerotech Park, and UMW High Value Manufacturing Park. Next slide. Now, this industry is huge. It is marked as a strategic sector with high growth potential. Over the next 20 years, global production of aircraft, excluding the jets, the regional jets. Now, excluding that itself, you are expected to total 38,050 units with a gross value of US $5.6 trillion. Selangor should therefore be working on a long-term strategy to leverage on these vast opportunities in the offing in all the essential aspects of the industry. Next, this is just to show when we visited the place. It's part of to tap into this. Next slide, please. Okay, let me come to this. Most recently, UMW Aerospace became the first Rolls-Royce Tier 1 components manufacturer. Now, fan cases. This is what we're doing. Fan cases for Trent engines. You look, this is I cut this off from a report. This is what happened. And now, what's the point? Fan cases for Rolls-Royce Trent engines. Now, what on earth is that? Maybe some of you know. But to be brutally frank, I did not have a clue. I did not have a clue for what they really looked like until one day, MB came back very excited from a meeting and told us in the staff meeting, it's finally happening. So I said, what's finally happening? MB said, fan cases for Rolls-Royce engines will be made in Selangor. Give a big round of applause. Made in Selangor. So, before moving on to the next segment, some strategic issues on also, I just want to cut to the chase here. Number one, we wait for the Selangor Aerospace Blueprint. That's very important. That will give clarity. Perhaps we call it the road map, or maybe it shouldn't be the aerial map, yeah? Aerial map is a better idiom. So these are some of the areas that we need to look into. Selangor will need to strategize to move up the value chain with particular emphasis on specialization and talent development. This is an ongoing process. Number two, with globalization having an increasing impact on our FDIs, there has to be an overall easing off in the manufacturing sector and stacking up in the services sector. So rebalance, recalibrate. This sector needs reorientation because of greater economic integration, globalization of value chains. In this regard, apart from sourcing inputs from more efficient producers, we need to go beyond domestic markets. I now come to one more component before we meet to the rounding up. A quick one here, Smart Selangor Delivery Unit. In order to monitor as well as drive the implementation of various key initiatives, we have this unit that was formed in mid-2016. There are too many things here, I will just cherry pick a few. First is the iClean mobile application and monitoring systems. Next slide, please. Now, the pilot project deployed in Klang in July 2016 has been a resounding success. I mean, resounding in real terms here, with residents' complaints dropping from 790 in July 2016 to just 7 by June 2017. Now, this system has been extended to Ampang Jaya, Selayang, with similar promising results. SSDU has to go up further the value chain with strategic collaboration, such as tie-ups with Google Ways and other local authorities. Now, following the formalization of collaboration, significant improvements in repairing potholes were recorded from February 2017 to June 2017. Holistically, success in these initiatives underscores the theoretical expositions we were talking about earlier. There must be citizen engagement all the way to ensure buy-in. And that would generate not only positive, but even proactive participation. Next. Another major program is the Wi-Fi Smart Selangor. The chief objective is to increase the number of Wi-Fi spots to a certain number in order to bridge the digital divide. Going forward, the following initiatives mentioning, namely the Selangor Maritime Gateway, we have the Sungai Klang, and then the Smart Selangor Command and Control Center. Now, before I move on, some strategic observations are in order. I apologize for having to rush this because of time. You can read the book later. It will be more graduated, and there will be what we call it, more substantive explanation on that. Now, bearing in mind the expressed raison d'etre is to monitor as well as drive the implementation of various key initiatives. SSDU, and then this I'm telling myself as well, me being part of it as an advisor, we may need to revisit and redefine the role and the scope. This is because clarity of purpose and sharpness of focus when managing strategic change is very important. Yeah, if we go back to the definition of smart state as was articulated by the Menteri Besar, it will be clear that the attainment of smart state is all-encompassing, across the board and very extensive in the scope. So one agent or one entity cannot possibly be doing all the delivering. So the responsibility of delivering on implementation must therefore go to the respective local authorities, the GLCs, the entities, the units, or the agencies concerned, apart from what SSDU can do over and above that. So having said that, there is no doubt that the SSDU, as it is now, has been successful in most, if not all, its undertakings. Furthermore, it represents a core element in the system towards the fulfillment of a smart state. Hence, further introspection, self-review, looking into ourselves and taking a step back would be good towards the betterment of holistic efforts. I will have to jump because of time to go out of this. You have got to bear with me. Go off the 3 slides and move on straight to the conclusion. Going forward in this 4th industrial revolution. Slide 85, please. Go straight to I would suggest that when you get this book, spend some time reading on TVET, spend some time reading on bridging the gap between the educational output and the needs of the state and industries. It's a very important section. In fact, it is quite detailed, so I have to leapfrog that because time is not on our side, but it is all fully covered here in the book. Please read that to get a more complete picture. As what MB told me yesterday, because of the rush to do this, we only have 2 months, yeah? So many areas are not covered, like water, for example, the perbendaharaan, and many other aspects that will form part of the central portion to move the smart state. So with regard to this, I will be proceeding to move and initiate the second edition of this book. And that might possibly double the length. Have we got that to forward to smart state in the 4th Industrial Revolution? Yes, thank you very much, yes. I come to the part 3, the concluding segment. So give and take a few more minutes here and there for injury time. Yeah. Now let me cut to the case, right to the chase on the disruptive impact on various spheres, not the least of which concerns existing skills. Now, the latest World Economic Forum report on the future of jobs says that because of the unprecedented rate of change in technological advances, it will not be possible in the 4th Industrial Revolution to develop major new skill sets on a large scale. This is frightening. Think about it. Serious implications. Let's look at it. Yep. In many academic fields, there are situations where nearly half, academic fields, yeah, nearly half of the knowledge acquired during the first year of your 4-year technical course will become obsolete by the time you receive your degree. Very serious here. Let's look at the slide here. Slide, please. Yes. Now, let's look at the core related skills. Practical skills, number 1, will undergo accelerating change. Major disruption, and in 3 years' time, more than a third of skills not regarded as crucial today will actually become the core skill sets of most occupations. Number 2, impact is already seen in mobile internet, cloud technology, advances in computing power, big data, crowdsourcing, peer-to-peer platforms. Furthermore, with the rise of the middle class in emerging markets, that's referring to us, we are witnessing young demographics, rapid urbanization, changing work environments, and flexible working hours. I just want to have a slide. So talking about flexible working hours, if you want to work with if you want flexible working hours, don't work with the Menteri Besar. Because he has got fixed hours and flexible working hours together. So you can imagine what it's like, yeah? So if you're not used to that, you better not take that. Don't take up the offer, yeah? The money may be good, but I tell you, you can go crazy, yeah? Flexible working hours and fixed working hours together, all right? So with climate change, we see greater clamor for conservation. We see the transition to a greener economy. Okay, next slide, yeah? This, next, yes, this is on drivers of change and impact on skills. I'm coming to the conclusion, yeah? Now, as we approach 2020, increasing presence will come from advanced robotics and autonomous transport with artificial intelligence and machine learning, advanced materials, biotechnology, and genomics. Genomics, as you know, genomes, a field in molecular biology, and where you do DNA sequencing and all that. Now, in the technological sector, the change impact on employee skills, they all point to one fact and one fact alone. The speed of change and the rate at which certain skills become obsolete will shake us up and force us to take urgent steps to recalibrate our human resource strategies. So, but look at the bright side. While there will be massive loss of jobs needed under the old paradigm, but under the new paradigm, the 4th Industrial Revolution will herald a new era of job creation, job opportunities in a variety of fields. Failure to implement changes in the modalities as well as the syllabic content will render not just the causes, but even the universities, the faculties, the schools, they will be divorced from the demands of reality. In other words, they become useless if we don't change. Next slide, please. Let me conclude with the following observations. First, as has been stressed throughout this lecture, strategies for the attainment of successful transformation must factor in that. Okay, we are here. That's too much. Yeah. Let me deal with just one aspect first. Are we at the right slot here? Can you just go back one more? Sorry. Yeah, governance, integrity, and social justice. Go to the next. Yes. Okay, correct. Skills evolution, yeah? I think I still need to, there's too many here. I have to move forward, excuse me. Yeah. Go forward, please. Yeah. Okay. Now there are two broad prescriptions here. For the short term, we need a mindset transformation to optimize talent pool in areas such as reinventing the HR function, utilizing data analytics, talent diversity, leveraging flexible working arrangements, and so on. For the longer term, we need to rethink entirely our education systems. Not just band-aid patch here, do this. You need an entire rethinking. Because you need to incentivize, for example, lifelong learning. You need to have cross-industry learning. And you need private and public, very close collaboration. So thirdly, we will propel Selangor's transformation into a regional state. It will require more than just robotics, big data, technological advances, much, much more than that. Slide. At the end of the day, the overarching condition for success must lie in governance, transparency, and accountability with a robust agenda for social justice. The state government has set the benchmark as exemplary administrators in growth and development-centric economic management, while using the people's money with full accountability and fulfilling the rakyat's trust. Integrity in governance cannot be shouldered only at the top, but must cascade down the line across the entire state hierarchy. And that would apply to all the GLCs, all the agencies, all the PBTs. With that in place, propelling Selangor's transformational change into a regional smart state will no longer be a mere dream, but a realistic aspiration capable of a full realization. When that happens, perhaps the Menteri Besar can then say, Veni, which means I came, Vedi, which means I saw, and then I conquered. But in this case, it's Veni, Vedi, transformasi. And with that, thank you very much. Yes.
Majlis mengucapkan terima kasih kepada yang berbahagia Profesor Dr. Faiz Bin Abdullah di atas syarahan yang telah disampaikan.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Bin Abdullah for the delivery of the lecture.
Dengan ini berakhirlah sudah Majlis Syarahan Umum Darul Ehsan. Pihak majlis sekali lagi merakamkan jutaan terima kasih kepada Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Menteri Besar serta hadirin hadirat sekalian di atas kesudian menghadiri program ini. Akhir kalam, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Para hadirin dan hadirat sekalian, majlis teruskan dengan menjemput Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Menteri Besar Selangor serta Difdiku Hormat untuk menikmati jamuan yang telah disediakan.
We have arrived to the end of the Darul Ehsan public lecture, and on behalf of the organizing committee, we apologize for any shortcomings. Ladies and gentlemen, for the purpose of an orderly exit, our guest of honor, Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Menteri Besar, will leave the auditorium first together with the rest of the officials. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Profesor Dr. Muhammad Faiz Bin Abdullah yang merupakan Dekan Selangor Business School, Universiti Selangor sebentar tadi. Dalam syarahan dia sebentar tadi, beliau telah menerangkan sebanyak 3 bahagian dalam syarahannya. Antaranya adalah part 1 di mana Quantum Leap. Beliau menerangkan tentang ekonomi, iaitu Selangor merupakan penyumbang terbesar kepada ekonomi Selangor. Part 2 di mana beliau menerangkan tentang UPAM, Long Term Strategy Achievement of PKNS, dan juga Unicel sebagai salah sebuah universiti yang memainkan peranan, dan juga industri aerospace dan juga Wi-Fi. Dan part 3 adalah kemahiran pekerja dan juga transformasi Selangor, di mana beliau telah menerangkan ataupun telah menulis buku untuk dibaca ataupun digunakan ataupun dirujuk oleh para pembaca untuk apa yang beliau telah terangkan pada syarahan beliau sebentar tadi. Teruskan bersama kami di TV ataupun di TV Selangor. Saya Syarul Azlan melaporkan.